The US is holding firm. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says tariffs on Chinese imports will stay exactly where they are, even as a final deal with Beijing is still pending. Despite President Trump touting a done agreement on social media, officials confirming the 55% tariff figure simply combines existing duties already in place. Lutnick says a breakthrough came during high-level talks in London, but key questions remain about China's rare earth exports and licensing rules that could still disrupt US supply chains. For more, we're joined by Jesse Moores from Spadium Capital. Great to see you, of course, Jesse. We've been expecting big news, the president promising that a deal had been done, but the detail looks pretty sketchy.
It's a bit underwhelming, I think, isn't it, Aaron? I mean, it's been interesting just reading the news come through over the early part of this morning and over the last hour or so from some of the major commentators across the world, especially looking closely at what the commentary has been out of some of the Chinese investment firms in Hong Kong and then some of the more Asian ones based out of Singapore. But I mean, you know, everyone sort of has this consensus that it's positive, it's a positive indication. I don't know if it's necessarily positive or negative. I think it's a bit neutral. It's a bit flatline. It's a bit linear. There is an agreement, and I suppose this is the difference of interpretation between what the US President Trump puts out and what the Chinese media will release. But Donald Trump's come out and said, deal done, it's all good. You know, China is going to remain with a 55% tariff and the US is only 10. Now, as you just touched on then, 25% of that alleged 55 is a carryover from his first term. And then there was the 10% across all trading partners that he announced back in March or April when it was. And then he added another 20% on there on China, Mexico and Canada because he was alleging that they were colluding for the import of fentanyl into the US. So I'm less convinced that this is a significantly positive outcome. There is a framework for further discussions, which, as you and I both know, and anyone who keeps an eye on any of these geopolitical matters, these talks will take years to manifest, years to conclude. The terms of the deal will take years to work out, by which point Donald Trump's probably going to be out of the White House anyway. So Xi Jinping, say, is playing the long game here and going, if this is what he needs to do to appease Donald Trump's tantrums at the moment, then that's probably what he's going to do and just wait for him to exit the White House.
I do love the idea of a framework. You know, I bought you the Mona Lisa, not the actual art, but the frame. It kind of feels like we're forgetting about the actual deal here. How solid do you think this so-called done deal with China is?
Yeah, look, again, I remain impartial as to how strong it actually is. I find it particularly interesting, though, that the US have obviously fought hard to get back some strong imports in the rare earth space. Like, we knew that was originally what the agenda was from the US perspective. But at the same time, they're happy to trade off some of their microchips back to China, which originally was not on the table because there was the concerns of what it meant for national security, giving that level of technology to the Chinese, which, for what it's worth, they could probably make it themselves there anyway. And they have pretty sophisticated defense technology as it is. But it seems quite peculiar that through all of this kerfuffle, we're really back where we started. The US allegedly is going to now get direct access back to the levels of rare earths that they need in the country. And they're going to be back trading the chips and semiconductors that originally were off the table. So again, I just find it quite unusual that I don't really know. And from the consensus across Singapore, Hong Kong, and some of the major commentators in the US and Australia, whilst everyone is saying this is positive, it doesn't really give us anything of substance to chew on and go, okay, this is what it's going to mean for markets or investment.
Well, the markets have spoken as well, haven't they? They haven't exactly celebrated this. In fact, they've gone backwards in many cases as well. Talk to us about China through all of this, because we know that the US wants access to rare earth mineral supplies, but what does China want out of these trade negotiations, or is it as simple as just avoiding a 55% tariff?
Well, again, I suppose, is it really a 55% tariff? I dare say China, again, playing the long game, will be able to whittle that down as time goes on. They're not about to exactly just open up the coffers to all of their rare earths. Let's not forget, they own about 99% of the world's production facilities in rare earths. And these facilities take decades, sometimes multi-decades, to get up and running to a level that can actually meet global demand. You've got Malaysia that's a close second, but by close second, you're talking about, fractions of a percent, really, by comparison to China. So China really doesn't have to give that much in this instance. Again, obviously part of the announcement that's gone out is that they will get access to the chips and semiconductors. But the question remains, do they really need the volume, or do they need access to that US-based tech in this dynamic of what has been created? Is it really worth fighting for? How much of these rare earths are going to go into not only the defense side of things, but future healthcare tech, some of the astro stuff as well. It remains very, very unusual that China really needs to do too much in this instance, other than just appease a bit of a tantruming baby, really.
Yes, and obviously some really strong questions too about what it means for American companies reliant on Chinese imports, because for so many of these US companies and US stocks, it's just been a seesaw over the past few months, not knowing exactly where things will end up. We have to end it there, I'm afraid. Jesse, appreciate your time as always. Talk soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.